I'd like to just push you a little bit further, Herr Pöttering. One, in the new world order, the problem with Europe is that trying to coordinate, just as you said about a political group in the European Parliament, trying to coordinate 27 countries and get them all pointing in one direction is fantastically difficult. The Americans always complain that negotiating with Europe is like negotiating with quick-drying concrete, that they sit and talk it all through, and by the time the Americans come into the room, they can't change anything. Now, if in the New World Order Europe sits as Europe, which I suspect is what you'd like Europe to do in the United Nations or somewhere like this, we'll become impossible people to negotiate with, won't we? How do we get over that problem?
You are right, and you are wrong, Quentin, if you allow me to say it. I forgot it to say that the President of France, Nicolas Sarkozy, was quite successful when he had his negotiations in Moscow and in Tbilisi. Maybe in the beginning one could be a little bit critical, but I think if you take everything together, he was very successful, and he spoke in the name of the European Union as a president of the European Council. And we had the summit, the European Council, the 1st of September, and there our position was harmonized, so to say. And now we have a speaker, a president of the European Council, who defends the position of the European institutions, the position of the 27 countries, and I think we have made progress. And I say it's in the interest of the United States, and it's in the interest of the Russians, the Chinese, and Africa, and of everybody, that we continue to build a strong European Union. Because if we are weak, then we cannot only not defend our values, but then we are a weak partner. And I think this world, as it is today, needs a strong Europe, which is part of solving problems and not part of the problem as such. And I think the European Union, more and more, is part of solving problems which we have in the world.
Okay, but let's be honest about this. President Ilves, actually, on a question like Russia, the Europeans are split right down the middle. We're spending the whole time papering over the cracks between those of you who feel directly threatened by Russia and Western Europeans who just want to appease Russia. Isn't that true?
Well, hello, yes.
Keep talking.
I think that it's not quite as simple as that. I think that your homeland, I think, seems to have a position that is much closer to the positions of many countries.
All talk and no trousers. Go on.
That, in fact, it really has to do with what we consider most important in the European Union. Do we support democracy, and is that the basis of our commonality, or is it we give lip service to democracy for as long as no one has a competitive advantage in making a deal, and then you do make the deal, and you make a gas pipeline, or you get a Stockmann field or something, and then principle goes out the window. And that's what we have to come down to. I mean, it's can you build a political and security architecture that is not based on values? I have my doubts.
Okay, I want to turn to Prime Minister Odinga then. From an African perspective, is this strange European animal really relevant to Africa? You were saying that there wasn't the possibility of a deal in your country, in Kenya, until the African Union, the United Nations, and the European Union got involved. But how relevant is the European Union to you? Aren't we terribly self-obsessed in Europe? Don't we need to become much more outward-looking?
Well, of course, I know that the self-interest, that is the European self-interest, comes first. Just like the Americans always act in the Americans' self-interest. Therefore, I think it would be unreasonable for the Africans to expect that Europeans will be coming to Africa out of charity. As you know, the historical relationship, Europe and Africa, has always been profit motivated. But we would like to see Europe more proactive in Africa. What has happened is that because of very special relationship, the European countries sometimes have got divided loyalties, because those who have special relationship with the parts of Africa. You've got Francophone Africa, you've got Anglophone Africa, the Portuguese Africa. So it is sometimes difficult for Europe to have one common approach to African problems. But we would really want to see that Brussels becomes the voice of the whole of Europe, so that European nations will act as one when it comes to Africa. In Kenyan case, yes, that was the case. Actually, the European Union and the representatives in Kenya, the current chair at that time, which was the one who was speaking on behalf of all the European diplomats based in Kenya. And even the UK was towing the line.